Good morning. I'd like to call the Planning and Zoning meeting of June 3rd, 2020 to order. Would you please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Jim Harris, Lucas Steele,
Here.
Michael Gordon,
Here.
Doug Hardy,
Here.
Donald Bergen,
Here.
Dan McGowan,
Here.
Chad Nelson, Susanna Ballard, here. Matthew Mitchell.
Here. Thank you. We're missing two today, so I'd like to seat two of our alternates. Ms. Ballard, if you would come up, and Mr. Mitchell, please come forward. Welcome to the Planning and Zoning Commission. While they get seated, I just want to say thank you for your patience this morning. Sorry we've been out of touch with being in person and being in meetings. So we had the Zoom thing down now. Now we're going back to the real way of doing business. So happy to be here this morning, and I guess we'll start this off. We have the minutes from the previous meeting on our agenda first this morning. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to these minutes? And if not, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
And I'll remind you guys everyone this morning, we need to use the screen as well. So when you make a motion, please hit the motion button, and the second, hit the second button, and then we'll go through the process.
Second button.
Oh, you've got to sign.
Here.
You got to sign. Okay, you made the motion.
Yeah.
All right. Are we logged in or no? Okay. While they log in, should I proceed and do the manual? Okay. All right, so we have a motion by Mr. McGowan, a second by Mr. Bergen. We'll go ahead and vote.
Just a voice vote? Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next, correspondence and announcements. Luke?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Announcement is we have a new alternate commission member, Mr. Matthew Mitchell, who we've pressed into duty today. Thank you, Mr. Mitchell, for
welcome
to the
Thanks
commission.
for joining us.
We still have one alternate position that is available, so if anyone in the public wants to become a Planning and Zoning Commission alternate member, please contact the city clerk's office and they'll have a packet ready for you. The only other announcement we have this time is Census 2020 is still on. With everything else going on in the world, this is something good you can do. Encourage you to complete your census application. It's really simple, online, or you can even call. So just look up 2020 Census and follow directions. With that, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a public hearing this morning. The structure of the meeting will be to allow staff to present an item. The commission then will ask questions, and the applicant will have an opportunity to present. Commissioners may have questions for the applicant, and then I will open the discussion to the audience. We ask that if you would like to address the commission, please do so, but there's a limit of one trip to the podium per topic and 3 minutes to speak. I will close the discussion after the public hearing portion and bring the item back to staff, asking for their final recommendation. The commission will then hear a motion, discuss, and make a recommendation to City Council for their final consideration. Our first public hearing item this morning is ID number 202378, a request for an extension of time of the preliminary plat approval for Window Rock Subdivision, Tract 2404. Mr. Morris?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you. Yeah, as you mentioned, this is a request for an extension of time. Get the PowerPoint going up on the screen here.
And Commissioners, if you remember, you can push the little select button if you want the presentation to show on your screen.
So the all right, the property address is the property is located north of Window Rock Road on the east side of town, off of McCulloch Boulevard, and then you can also get there from Angelfish Drive, and it has access to the undeveloped portion of that property. The property is currently zoned R1, which is in keeping with the rest of the area. This portion of this property was annexed to the city 4 or 5 years ago and rezoned then to R1. In April of 2018, the preliminary plat for Window Rock Subdivision was approved by the Planning Commission. 102 lots, about 58 acres, with some standard conditions or some conditions that went along with that. One of the preliminary plat approval is good for a period of 2 years. So it's been 2 years and the applicant is asked to renew the preliminary plat. Here are the original conditions that went along with the original approval in 2018. Staff's not recommending any changes to these proposed conditions. With that, conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any of the commissioners have questions of staff before we open it up to the public? Seeing none, is the applicant present? Would you like to address the commission? All right, thank you. At this point, we'll open it up. This is a public hearing. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to address this issue, please come to the microphone. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring this back to staff for their recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Staff has received no objections from any reviewing parties to extend the preliminary plat approval. Based on the findings, the Development Review Committee recommends that Land Use Action ID 20-2378, request for an extension of time for the preliminary plat approval for Window Rock Subdivision, Tract 2404, be approved for a period of 2 years with the following conditions from the original approval. 1, street name shall be added to the plat for the city staff to review and approve, for city staff review and approval. 2, a title report shall be provided and reviewed by city staff. 3, parcels A and C, if necessary, shall be dedicated on the plat to Lake Havasu City. 4, a maintenance agreement for parcels A and C shall be reviewed and approved by city staff. 5, all homes will require fire sprinklers. 6, fire flows shall be identified and any necessary restrictions shall be determined. 7, sewer and water master plans shall be reviewed and approved by city staff. 8, a 10-foot PUE along the western border instead of proposed 8-foot included lots 1 through 4 of Block 3 and lots 1 through 8 of Block 4 shall be provided. And finally, proposed easements shall be reviewed to determine if they are adequate to handle water and sewer utilities. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll bring this back to the commissioners for any comments, questions, discussion.
I have one small one. The time extension, is that, how long a period is that? Is that a set amount or open?
Thank you for the question, Mr. McGowan. It's 2 years. They're asking for 2 years extension.
Other questions, comments?
No, as long as it's that, you're happy with that. I just want to know how long it was.
Yes, that's fine with staff.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Bergen, go ahead.
I just want to ask staff, this long list of recommendations, has the applicant been shown all this?
The applicant has received this as part of the original approval and as part of this staff report. They have that information.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions, comments by the commissioners? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to Approve land use action ID 20-2378, a request for an extension of time on the preliminary plat approval for Window Rock Subdivision, Tract 2404, for a period of 2 years with the original, for a period of 2 years with the following conditions from the original approval, and that would be conditions 1 through 9 that staff outlined.
I second the motion.
Push, oh, here we go back and push your button.
This one, yeah.
And then you have to hit the second button on the screen. There we go. All right, thank you. I have a motion by Mr. Still, a second by Mr. McGowan. Any other comments or discussions on this item? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and vote.
I'd like to enter a verbal vote of yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. Good luck. All right, our next item today is ID 202398, a reevaluation of the approval of a conditional use permit 17-003-00002 to allow an animal care and boarding facility in the C2 PD General Commercial Plan Development.
On Sweetwater Avenue. The property is at Sweetwater Avenue. Those who have been in town a while know that the old BLM building is what they took over. So it's on the south side of Highway 95, off of South Tacoma, just north of Regency Drive, as shown in this area map. The zoning for the property is C2, planned development, and then there next to it on Sweetwater Avenue toward Tacoma is a commercial, and then abutting it to the south is some residential, multiple family, mostly developed as single family with some multiple family development in there. The original approval of this in 2016 by the Planning Commission, one of the conditions was it shall be reevaluated by the commission 1 year after occupancy. The C of O for this property was issued in May of last year, so the 1 year anniversary of their official opening is for their C of O was last month, so it's coming back and just to be a reevaluation and see if there's any issues that have arisen in that 1 year. Staff has received no reports, no code enforcement requests or anything on the property. So with that, staff concludes our presentation. I know the applicant is here also. Thank you.
Thank you. First, any questions by the commissioners of staff on this item? Seeing none, is the applicant present? Would you like to address the commission this morning? No? All right, thank you. This is a public hearing. At this point, I'll open it up to the audience. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the commission? If so, please come forward. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to staff for their recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Staff has received no code enforcement complaints against the property since it's been operated as an animal care and boarding facility. Based on the findings, the Development Review Committee recommends that conditional use permit number 17-003-00002 for an animal care and boarding facility use be allowed to continue as conditioned in the Planning Commission Resolution number 17-1 with no additional reevaluation required. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, bring it back to the commission for any questions, comments on this item. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. I move that conditional use permit 17-003-0002 for an animal care and boarding facility use be allowed to continue as a condition, as conditioned in the Planning Commission Resolution 17-1 with no additional reevaluation required.
I second it.
I think Mr. Hardy beat you to it on the
I'll
screen.
second the motion.
Thank you. I have a motion by Mr. Still, a second by Mr. Hardy. Any other comments or discussion on this item? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and vote.
Cast a verbal vote of yea.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. All right, the final item of our public hearing this morning, excuse me, is ID number 202395, a request to rezone 386 and 390 Lake Havasu Avenue North, tract 2252, block 2, lots 6 and 7, from MUNPD, Mixed Use Neighborhood Plan Development District, to RM, Multifamily Residential District. Mr. Morris?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you. This subject property is located on the southeast corner of Lake Havasu Avenue and Sabino Drive. The current zoning, here's the current zoning map. The property is currently zoned, as you mentioned, mixed-use neighborhood plan development. And it's part of a larger piece of property that was, with 3 other lots that was rezoned to that mixed-use neighborhood plan development. Abutting the property to the north across Sabino Drive is the property there zoned RM, or multiple family, which is the zoning district they're asking to go back to. And then across Lake Havasu Avenue is also zoned RM, which again is the zoning they're asking for. Behind it, or to the east, the properties are zoned single-family residential. And again, to the south is a mixed-use neighborhood plan development. We'll go into a little more detail on that as it kind of ties into this request a little bit. So if you'll bear with me here, there's a little bit of a history going on at this point. In January of 2008, an applicant came forward to rezone lots 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now, lots 6 and 7 are the subject of this request today. When this request was made in 2008 to rezone all these properties to mixed-use neighborhood plan development, which at that point was called commercial residential plan development. In 2016, that designation was changed to mixed-use neighborhood, so it's a little confusing. So what they're asking for basically, back in 2008, there was a plan development approved that only had a development plan for lots 3, 4, and 5. 6 and 7 were vacant, no plans for them at that point in 2008. And then in 2012, there was a plan that came forward that was for lots 6 and 7. That was approved in 2012. It was for a 57-unit hotel project at the corner of Papago and Lake Havasu Avenue. Again, this 6 and 7 are the subject of today's request. Lots 3, 4, and 5 are not part of this request. They were part of the original plan development way back in 2008. So it gets a little confusing there, but lots 6 and 7 are what we're talking about today. So the property owner is asking that that plan development for lots 6 and 7 be removed and it go back to what it was way back in the day, RM, multiple family. So with that, conclude presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation and the background on that. Any questions of staff before we get started on this item from the commission?
Luke, what does the general plan call for right there?
The general plan designation there is commercial. Commercial mixed use.
Thank you. Anyone else have questions of staff at this time? Is the applicant present? All right, thank you, Mike. This is a public hearing, so at this time we'll open it up to the audience. Anyone that would like to address this item, please come forward. Go ahead, sir. Come on up to the microphone and please state your name and address for the record. The button on the stool will get it for you there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name's John Campbell. I reside at 394 Sabino. We went through this exercise a few years ago, and with the neighbors involved, our main concern was the traffic coming onto Sabino, and that there were not, and my understanding at the last meeting on this property, that it was concluded that there would not be any access on Sabino going into any property that's built there. I mean, we've got elderly people that walk their dogs there. We've got a school bus stop right across the street. Um, the traffic is horrendous, and I'm not sure if this is are condos or houses that they're proposing to build. The problem we had last time was the hotel going up, and people coming in from out of town with their boats and the traffic. They end up going up Sabino all the way. It's a loop, and just the traffic and the hazardous. The city has put a divider now in between the lanes on Sabino and Lake Havasu Avenue. So that's made it difficult for just the residents now. So I just wanted to make that comment.
I understand. Thank you for your comment on that. And to, if I may, staff, correct me if I'm wrong, I was on the commission at the time when we dealt with the PD. That was a condition of the planned development at the time to not have access off of Sabino. And if this action is successful, the PD will be removed and it will just revert to RM multifamily zoning. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, that's correct. So they go back to just the plain old RM zoning for that property. There was a planned development, as you are aware, planned developments, the planning commission and can make recommendations, the city council can approve stipulations that go along with that. Back when this was planned development was approved in 2012, that one of the stipulations was for that hotel use, there was not to be access onto Sabino for that project.
Correct.
So that was part of the original, part of that planned development approval. They're asking that go away. All of the planned development conditions
everything would go
be
away.
removed.
Correct.
They revert back to standard RM zoning with all the entitlements that are allowed in RM zoning.
And at that point, any proposed development plan would go through the plan review process with the city.
That's correct. And things like traffic access management would be reviewed by the appropriate Public Works Engineering Department.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir, please come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record.
Yes, my name is Michael Johnson, and I own a house on Sabino at 406. I'm a loud talker.
Go
And
ahead.
that's my concern, whatever they put there, because I know when they were gonna do that other project back in 2012, they were wanting to put the access, instead of on Lake Havasu Avenue, on Sabino. And I'm with the other gentleman, I don't want all the boats, blocking, because that's gonna cause me, I'm gonna buy a couple old vehicles, park them in front of my house, so they don't block me up. You know what I mean? If they put the access for whatever they're gonna put there, hopefully not a motel, on Lake Havasu Avenue, just like they did the teeny houses, right up going towards the car wash,
Right.
there.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is, they would not be able to put a motel there. This is multifamily, so, but I appreciate your comment. Thank you. Anyone else in the audience wish to address the commission on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to staff for their recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Staff finds that the request meets all the requirements set forth in Section 140504K6 of the Lake Havasu City Development Code. Based on the findings, the Development Review Committee recommends approval to rezone the property located at 386 and 390 Lake Havasu Avenue North, Tract 2252, Block 2, Lots 6 and 7, from MUNPD to RM. And just as a reminder, the commission's recommendation will go to City Council at the July 14th, 2020 meeting for a public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'll bring it back to commission for questions, comments on this item. Discussion. Mr. Bergen? Oh, and did you have something?
I was just gonna make a comment before.
Hold on, he's
motion.
ready to go. Mr. Bergen's gonna ask a comment. Go ahead.
Motion.
Oh, motion, okay. Mr. Still has a question first.
just because we had some public come up to the stand, I just point out that we're getting rid of what would have been a commercial, potentially zoned property where they could have had a hotel. And now it's going back to just the same zoning that's along both sides of the street, pretty much on both sides. Whether or not that access comes off Sabino doesn't really have anything to do with this meeting. That would go back to staff at the appropriate time when something's proposed, and they are caught, they do recognize those kind of impacts. So hopefully that gets addressed at that point. But this action is just to change the zoning back to what everything else is up and down the street.
Thank you. Mr. Bergen, you had a motion?
Yes, it sounds favorable, and I would move for approval with the any staff recommendation on this. It is worth being approved.
Thank you. We have a motion by Mr. Bergen. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Oh, Mr. Hardy beat you to it. We have a second by Mr. Hardy.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Before we vote, are there any other questions, comments, or discussion by the commission? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and vote on this item.
Enter a verbal vote of yea.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. Good luck. That concludes our public hearing portion of today's meeting. At this point, we'll have the call to the public. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to address the commission on anything at this time? Seeing none, I'll close the call to the public. Mr. Morris, future meetings.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. The June 17th meeting is canceled. We did not receive any items for that meeting. The next regular meeting is scheduled for July 1st, 2020, and we do have an item for that agenda. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. That is all for today. We stand adjourned.